Okay guys, let's set up the Raspberry. You're going to need a thumb drive. You're going to want to hook up all the cables, these specific ones, the HDMI. You're going to hook up the Ethernet cable. Hook up your HDMI, plug in your USB stick and your USB keyboard and mouse. The last thing you do is plug in the power and then go. Now when you start to set up your Raspbmc, you're going to get a lot of computer looking code and different download bars and different connection status updaters and things like that. What's happening is the card that you put in the Raspberry is not actually equipped with XBMC yet. So Sam Hazarko is the creator of Raspbmc, which is a special version of XBMC that works on a Raspberry. So what happens is when you put in that prepped card, it calls out to the server and says, okay, I'm here, I'm on a Raspberry, and I'm ready to set up. And it formats the partitions on the card, gets everything ready, and then basically brings the software down and installs XBMC. And that's why the install takes so long, because it's not actually installed on the card until you plug it in the first time and go through this process. So from this point, I'm going to put this video into hyperdrive because it's about a 15 to 20 minute download and reboot process. So don't get discouraged or freaked out when you get black screens or things hang up for a long time. Just let it do its thing. Don't go unplugging anything or thinking that you're going to change it. Just let it do its thing. Be patient. So now your Raspberry will reboot and you'll see the big red R for the first time, which is a great sign. That means it's still cycling through. It's not done yet. It's got a little bit more to go. The Raspberry boots finally into the XBMC screen. You want to pay attention to the bottom right hand corner where the words are, and you're looking for your network address. And you can see the network address for this Raspberry on this particular network is 192.168.1.152. Yours will be different. Just make note of it, and this will enable you to use your Raspberry and configure it on various applications. Okay, let's set this up. One of the first things you want to do is pick your language. Mine happens to be English. Now, one note is I use a keyboard, and I use the Enter key, the up, down, left, right arrows, and the Escape key, and I can do 99% of everything you need to do on the Raspberry. On this screen, everything fits just fine, but sometimes the clock and the calendar or the XBMC logo will be off the screen and you won't be able to see the whole thing. So the way you fix that is you go over to System and then you go into Settings. Once you hit Settings, you go to System and then you go to Video Output and you want to jump into this. You just use your right arrow to get over here. Now this is the resolution for the menus and the screens and everything. It usually auto configures to the type of monitor you have, but you can change that by toggling the up and down arrow. I'm not going to keep any changes here. But to change how your screen aligns with your television or your monitor, use video calibration. Up in the top left, you see the blue L. Basically, you use the arrow key and you push that blue bar till you can barely see it. And now you push it to the left with the left arrow key to where you can barely see it. And hit Enter. And that Enter will push you down to the next location, bottom right. Do the same thing. Down arrow to push it over, right arrow to push it out. That stretches the screen to fill the max on this monitor. Now this bar shows you where the subtitles are, and I moved it up. And then the last thing shows you basically a square, and it says, hey, if this square doesn't look like a square, move the arrow keys around until it looks more like a square, and that'll change your like aspect ratio on your screen to look more appropriate. And if you aren't finished with the changes or you want to make more adjustments, you just keep hitting the Enter key and it cycles through these as many times as you want. And to get back out, just hit escape. Okay, moving on to the audio output section. You can see that we're connected with the HDMI, which is accurate. The speaker configuration is set for 2 speakers, a stereo pair, and you can change that. You can make that 7.1 for surround sound, and there's multiple variations other than that as well. I like to leave it on 2.0 because if I'm using a surround receiver and I have Dolby Digital material or DTS material, I leave those 2 checked, and it will actually decode properly with the right surround sound. If it's not originally a Dolby soundtrack or DTS soundtrack, I just play it in stereo. So pretty much the default settings I just leave alone here. Okay, hit escape once you're done, or the left arrow. It takes you back over to the menu. And the input devices are already checked off, and I would leave those alone. It enables your mouse and touch screen or whatever you might use. Internet access, I leave this unchecked. Power saving, it gives you different functionality for your power off button. I just leave it as it comes default. Debugging, not really sure even what that is. Master lock, I don't put any codes or master locks on anything because I can't remember passwords as it is, so you know, it's more trouble than it's worth half the time. Okay, next you want to go up to services. And services general, this shows you your device name. This by default is named XBMC. Every time you do a Raspberry or you set up XBMC in a Raspberry, it's going to give you this name. If you have 3 or 4 in your house and you're using, let's say, an iPod or an iPhone for remote control, you need to name them different names so you know at least where they are. So I name mine like Raspberry Living Room, Raspberry Den, Raspberry Bedroom. So when I have my iPhone and I'm trying to use my iPhone remote, I know which one I'm choosing and which one I'm controlling. Okay. I leave all these plugged in and turned on because you want to be able to control your XBMC with UPnP. Web server, this is important. It's on port 8080. So when you're setting up your iPhone remote, having that 8080 as one of the port ranges is important to have on there. I allow programs to control all aspects of XBMC. I check this as well. This is a 0 configuration. And then also I like to enable AirPlay. So what you can do is you could play like a YouTube video on your phone, and then there's the AirPlay icon. You hit that AirPlay icon. So not only will you have Apple devices to choose from, you'll be able to actually pick the XBMC and send the video straight up to your television through your XBMC, which is pretty cool. And then this tells you your network setting and which group you're on. Mine's on the work group, the SMB client. Now when you're looking at the main XBMC menu screen, there's different headings, pictures, videos. Under each one of those is a little tab, files and add-ons. Add-ons are the things that you can basically add on to XBMC to make it a little more fun. And they're little widgets, things that'll do HDTV or allow you to watch Netflix or all the different things of that nature. And then the files is where you can actually look at your own files that are either on a hard drive connected directly to the XBMC or files on a network server. So we're going to go in and set up some of these add-ons. So we're going to go in and go into the add-ons section. And we're going to install from zip. Now these add-ons have already been put on a zip drive or on a USB drive, which is plugged into the Raspberry right now. So we're going to install from zip. And when we click that button, it's going to go to a location, and we're going to pick the location. And we're going to pick the 8 gig USB drive because it's already plugged into the Raspberry. And there's different repositories that you can put on. We're going to grab this NaviX, and it says install from zip. If you notice the bottom right hand corner, you'll notice it'll say NaviX is enabled or add-on enabled. And then you can go back in and enable another one, Blue Cop. And you just repeat this for all the different plugins until you have all the add-on repositories that you want. IceFilms is a little different. Once you've installed your zip, you go to Get Add-ons and you go to Anarchist Add-ons. That's where IceFilms exists. And then you go to Video Add-ons and you click IceFilms. And then it will install. You hit the install button, you'll see that it downloads and installs. Now at this point, IceFilms will be available as a video add-on from this point forward, but it's the only one that's like this, so it's kind of weird. Back on the main screen, you can go to videos now and click add-ons, and all the add-ons that you had, you say get more, and this is where, after enabling the repositories, you're able to actually see the actual add-ons within the repositories. It's kind of weird, but it's not that bad once you get the hang of it. And now basically you go down through the list and you pick what you want to add to your XBMC box. And these things will always be here to go back and get again, so if you want to get something that you didn't get the first time, you can always go back. So what you do is you highlight the one you want, you hit enter, and then once you hit enter, it'll give you the choice to download. So let's say Blip TV, you hit enter, you hit install, and basically when I say hit, you're just hitting enter, the enter key, and then you keep going down. And eventually, they say downloading 0%, but eventually they're going to catch up with themselves and be at 100%. See, like right there, they start working. And they slowly populate. It's kind of a slow process. This is one of the biggest drags, I think, of setting up the Raspbmc. It takes a really long time. So when your card gets corrupted, you have to go back through all of these steps, and it's really a bummer. Okay, now you can go over to music. Click some add-ons for music, and you'll see Apple iTunes is there from enabling it on the video section, but within the music folder itself and those add-ons, you'll have some choices here as well. And it's the same routine. When you find the one you want, you basically set your highlight on top of it, like jazz radio. You hit enter, and then you enter again to install it, and like I said, these will slowly catch up and populate as you move through it. And that's really all there is to it. Within pictures there's a couple choices as well. I like to get Flickr. I have a Flickr account and I use Picasa Web. And let's see, Flickr's right here. You just hit enter and install. So the process is the same pretty much for all of these, whether it's videos, pictures, or music. The add-ons are put in all the same way. So basically you get everything configured the way you want it. This is a little out of order. I forgot to set the clock earlier on. It is kind of important. So you go over and you make sure you're on the right, like USA 12-hour clock. And by default it's USA, but I'm not in that location that it spells out. So what I do is I hit the arrow key until I hit US. Got to go over and back up. And United States, New York. That's the Eastern, so that's for me. Your time zone might be different, so go ahead and set up the one that works. And then escape out of this menu, and you should have, if you notice that my clock is now changed to 7 p.m. Now the weather section is pretty cool. Basically you look at that left hand side, you see that little tab. If you arrow over far enough, you can set up different layouts. And you can also go down here and set your settings, and that enables you, if you go over to the right and down one, jump into settings, and you enable locations. And the first location, what it asks for is a zip code or a name of a city. So just hit enter. Oops. And my zip code is entered now. And it pulls up, yep, it's accurate for where I'm at, and I hit enter, and you can set different locations, and then once you're finished, you just hit OK. Once you go back out onto your weather screen, it will actually populate with the information that you just gave it, and it'll show you, satellite images or different days. I usually land on the 10-day forecast and just use that. And once on that page, you can just use the up and down arrow to change days. Once you have everything set up, when you go to videos or music or pictures, you actually have to go to the add-ons tab and then cycle through and pick the add-on you want to see. And it's not really convenient. So sometimes what I like to do is put shortcuts on the desktop to get the top 4 or 5 add-ons that I like the most available quickly. I'll show you how to do that. So what you want to do is you want to go over to System, Settings, go up to Appearance, and then you'll get to Skin. You key over with the right arrow key onto the Settings, and then you go down to Add-on Shortcuts, and you'll see the Video submenu. Go down and pick the app that you want to have on the main screen, and choose up to 5. And you can go down and you can find Ice Films, and there's also, I think, NaviX shows up. Even though NaviX is in the program folder, it will show up as a video shortcut available. Go through and do the same thing for music add-ons in the music submenu. And then you can go down to the pictures as well. You can put Flickr. And let's go ahead and pick Picasa Web. You can do that for all the different things you want to have on the front screen, and when you escape, this is what it will look like. If you go out to the main screen here, you have to step back several steps. But as you key over, they'll look kind of like this. They take a second to populate, but see, now they're at the bottom of the screen, and you just pick the one you want whenever you want it. Now, when you're on the videos page, you have choices of files or add-ons. Files is like local files, files that would be on a hard disk connected to the Raspberry, or files that could be connected on a network drive. So what we're going to do now is set it up to where you can watch local files on your Raspberry as well. Now, when you plug in a USB drive or a hard disk into your Raspberry, it should be immediately visible, but your network files may not be. So you click on Files, and you can see that the 8 gig USB drive that's plugged into the Raspberry is showing up. You can go into this drive and you can see the movies. I've just put a few movies on there. And then you can click on a movie. And the movie starts to play pretty quickly. And then from there, if you use your mouse, you can actually change the play locations, fast forward and stop, and all those different things for the movie. So to add network drive or network locations, you would basically go into Add Videos, Browse, and then my particular network is the SMB Windows network. You click that, It takes a minute to think. Okay, once it comes up, you go into the network that your files exist on. Mine happens to be MS Home, and it's on my tower, and it's in a folder called Movies. And then I would go down and pick the folder in the Movies folders that I would want to map to, so to speak, and let's say NaviX Recent. Within this folder is the list of movies. Now this is the folder I want to select. I don't want to dig any deeper, but I can't go down and hit OK. Here's the trick in this screen. You have to hit left key, the left arrow key, which makes no sense at all, but it drives me nuts. Hit the left key, hit OK. Then arrow down to the OK key, and you can rename it if you wanted to. Now XBMC also allows you to use a database to put movie art to your movies just by their names. So here you can select the movie database. Now it asks you if you want to refresh the items within the path, and you hit yes. And what it does now is it starts to look at every single name in that folder, and it goes out to the movie database and tries to match the name to a movie, which is pretty cool. So you can see 10 years, 12 monkeys. So it's going one by one, and it's putting movie art with each thing. So if you go down here within the folder and you go down to 10 years, you'll see the movie art's already been populated. So if you had your hard disk drive or your USB drive and you wanted to set the content for that one, you basically go and you hit set content. And it will again say, what is the content? And you say it's movies, and you keep clicking until you get to movies. And you click OK. And it'll ask you, do you want to refresh all the items in this path? You hit yes. Now this one goes a little quicker because there was like only 4 movies inside of it. We'll just go ahead and let it finish, and then I'll give you an example of what it looks like once it's completed. So once it's done, you can click on the USB or the hard disk drive, and it even tells you which ones are standard def and HD. And you can go in and click that icon, and it'll give you the album or cover art for that particular movie, so you'll know what you're looking at. It's a lot easier to look at movies this way because you don't have to read every word that's on the screen. You can actually just look at the cover. And then things that don't have a cover, it's just going to get a thumbnail of part of the video that's in there.